Thank you, Ron.
So the two things you identified that the beast likes, the dumb beast, I like that, right? The dumb beast likes sensationalism.
Surely.
Right, and new sensations. So you have to push the envelope.
New scandal, yeah.
Right, and Trump's willingness to do things that would supposedly disqualify most candidates push this along. Now, one difference between, say, a CNN and, say, a right-wing radio host, right, is they both operate on sensationalism, right? In fact, what we're learning in the Radioactive Project is that right-wing radio hosts saying outrageous, awful, hateful things is not some byproduct where essentially, oh, the host went a little too far, wish he wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's actually the model, because they need to be more and more sensational to get more and more audience and then charge more and more to advertisers. The difference being CNN literally has a panel discussion of it after they report it over and over again. So they say, look at this terrible thing, a religious test for entrance into the country. And so they report it. Then they have panels, and one side of the panel says, this is terrible, you can't say that in America. The other side says, well, terrorism's pretty scary, don't you think? And we should take precautions. And at the end of the day, right, a lot of voters were not persuaded, right, because it was attacked to some degree on CNN and MSNBC, right? It got it out there, and it got him all this attention, the 250 to 1 ratio, right? Mm-hmm. So it does, but in a way, I mean, in some sense, do you think that this is the right-wing radio model in some ways, the talk radio model taking over cable news and news coverage in general? Is that a possibility here?
No, please go.
What?
Okay. You're a topic.
Well, there is an element of it. But again, I'm a structuralist. So if you want me to go and rage about personalities, you're going to have to find somebody else. I'm actually interested in what's real, what's happening. What's real and what's happening is that you're rewarded for having listeners. You're rewarded for attracting people. And increasingly, in this clicks and rating-driven reality, the more outrageous you become, the more likely you are to get listeners. That is a reality that crosses all of these lines. And I've even heard some left-wing talk radio that has tried to be outrageous and done its best. It's just that, it's a damn reason thing gets in the way. And, but the truth of the matter is that what we need to understand is that we've entered into a place where outrage, faux outrage, anger at just things, this is the thing we've decided this week we're going to be angry about. Anything that can get people charged up and they feel like they are learning something new and they can respond to it, that is a model, and it has clearly crossed over. Now, here's where it gets, this is where I think, this is maybe the biggest deal about what's happened here, and the thing that's most troubling to me. On cable networks during this campaign, we saw a new phenomenon, and that was that when a candidate was speaking, if the candidate was Donald Trump, they would go wall to wall through the whole show. You'd be booked as a guest on a show, and they'd say, well, we're not going to go to you because we're just playing Trump the whole way through. And then, if by chance they got done with Trump, right, maybe they'd go over to Hillary Clinton. They went to the candidates who were in the lead. I understand that. But then, if they were going to have a discussion about it, instead of having some serious folks come on who would say, I heard something good there from this one, I heard something bad there from that one, but there's some subtlety here, or maybe, there's an issue we ought to be talking about, or something like that. No, they would have surrogates for the candidates come on, and their job was to convince you that the lies of candidates were in fact true. We have never, ever had this phenomenon before. This is unimaginable. And so when you talk about ideological talk radio, or whatever, where its goal is to kind of keep driving home an idea, keep pushing in an idea, even if it's way at odds with what we might know economically or socially or structurally, we have now translated that into the upper tier media. And this is a nightmare scenario because you don't have the person sitting there who says, you know what? I think the Democrats are wrong about some stuff, and I think the Republicans are wrong about some stuff, and there might actually be some truth out here that we should be talking about. This is a really terrible situation. And I have to tell you, who I've heard during the course of this? actually begin to become very agitated and concerned about it? Some, not all, conservative talk radio hosts. I've actually been on shows with Michael Medved and others, and they're like kind of troubled because it is said that we've entered into a fact-free, right? A fact-free era, right? No, we've entered into an information-free area where if all you have is candidates ranting and raving, and then after that, people just repeating those talking points and arguing that my candidate was right or your candidate was right, we're going nowhere. You are in the ditch and you are not getting out. This is a Wisconsin winter, and you don't have any gravel. You don't have a kind of newspaper or something to put under the tire. You're just spinning your tire. And in this spin your tire moment, what will prevail is the most extreme, the most out there, the most troubling ideas in many, many situations, because they will rise above this empty, vapid consideration. It is a very dangerous game that we're into now. And what I believe is needed is an alternative to this, and I'm sure we'll go further. I think we need citizen-funded community journalism that the people who fund it, yes, they have concerns and they have cares and they have beliefs, but that they also do want to be informed. They want to learn things, and they even want now and again to be told they're wrong. If we create a society where no one can handle being told that they are wrong, then we are going to end up with my kid's playgroup at the daycare center when she was 4. And we can't have that. We have too many big problems. And I'm sorry, I don't want to rant too far here. I'll leave one final thought on this. I thought the debates this year were nightmarishly awful. Awful. And it was not because of Donald Trump, and it was not because of Hillary Clinton. I happen to think Clinton won most of the debates. On debate points, I was in high school debate. I know how it works. I thought she won on points. He probably did pretty well on emotions. But you know what was pretty awful about the debates? The third debate, the worst one of all, where you had a guy I actually kind of respect, Chris Wallace from Fox, who I don't have a problem with Fox hosts. No problem at all. I think Chris Wallace has tried. I've seen him do decent interviews with people across the ideological perspective. That wasn't my problem. My problem was that when he got to the economics, every question he asked presumed an austerity mindset that was in lockstep with Paul Ryan, or sometimes to the right of Paul Ryan. He was taking talking points from billionaires who have tried to shape an economic discourse that says we got to cut food stamps for the poor in order to give tax cuts to the wealthiest people in the world. And he asked questions based on that. And in a debate, when the questions are stupider and more off focus, more wrong, the candidates will respond. But here's the bottom line. You come out stupider. You actually believe that is the only alternative you have. I think the debates this year reinforced inane and irresponsible economic ideas that will do dramatic harm to America. And I think that, frankly, an awful lot of Americans realize that, and some of them made the horrible mistake of voting for Donald Trump because they didn't like this centrist, whatever, this messy consensus that we somehow got to, that the only thing that matters is making sure that billionaires are happy. And so the bottom line is, I think our media is doing us scorching damage. And I do agree with you that models that used to be kind of dismissed to say, well, that's very ideological. That's one side of this thing. They have gone right into the center of our national media, and they have made our discourse so dysfunctional, that we didn't even discuss the major issues of this year. Climate change didn't come up in debate after debate after debate. This is insane.
No, That's right, and that's how you come out of an election thinking that the way to make healthcare more affordable and to give people choice is to abolish the Affordable Care Act and put people at the mercy of insurance companies. People voted that way. And in fact, a lot of the pundits on This Morning are saying that Obamacare won the election, but it was a fact-free zone.